Hello. Okay, so in this video, I'm basically going to have Claude Code recreate some old software I worked on a few years ago. The software was applying audio effects to images, basically to try to glitch them out in weird ways. And as you can see in the image here, which came from the film Perfect Blue, I'd applied an audio echo to the image, which kind of is like in audio context, it sort of repeats the sound in certain time intervals. And here I think you can kind of see how that is happening. You've got this face here which is being sort of like echoed to the left and the right, and you get these weird and interesting artifacts or changes in the color because of how these RGB values are being like wrapped around and stuff like that. And I worked on this in 2022 for probably a few weeks at least, and it was before the release of ChatGPT, so before AI existed, and I would kind of like I was using a library called Socks, which is for audio, and I was feeding it these images, and then as it was working on just binary data, you could basically treat the images as if they were audio, and apply the effects to them, and then rebuild it with another program into an image, and then just look at what happened. And when I created it originally, I have this repository here. It's a few years ago. It was a command line application which you had to run like this, and just provide an image. It would give the image out, and you could give this structured data to tell it what effects to apply and what settings to use, and then you'd get your image out, and then you would try it again and get your image out. It was a very tedious process. And had no GUI program. I did try to make a web app, but the interface was pretty horrible for that. And then the more time you spend building the UI part and the GUI and the UX, the more you move away from the original intention. So what I thought I would do is ask Claude to rebuild this program from scratch, basically. Just as an experiment into vibe coding, because like I saw recently that Bernie Sanders had made a video where he was talking to Claude, and suddenly everyone on LinkedIn is an expert in AI and agentic coding. So I thought, well, what's next for the world? What does the world need next? And I realised the answer to that is a video of me using Claude Code. So I have been documenting the process quite extensively, just so I've got something to refer back to one day. And when I think back to the good old days where we wrote things ourselves and didn't just offshore all of it to an AI. So just for anyone who's not aware, this is the definition of vibe coding, which was defined in a tweet about a year ago or something, by Andrej Karpathy. And it basically just for these purposes, it's just me chatting with Claude about what I want it to do, and then it going away and doing it, and then iterating on what it's created. So I gave it a first prompt, which was I want to experiment with vibe coding. In this repo is an old project I worked on for data bending images. To do so, I was using the SOX library, usually for audio effects, applying them to images. It was long ago abandoned, terribly optimized, never had a good interface to work with. We're in a separate branch here, and I'm going to ask you to rewrite the app from scratch, build it up again, and make it better. Build back better, oh god, and more flexible. What do you think? How should we proceed with this? That's just some information about the version I'm using. And it came back with just some details on what was done originally, because I gave it the original repository. I linked it this, or no, actually that's not true. It's working within the repository on the computer, so it had access to all of the information. so it figured out what was done before, found some problems in it, and gave me a plan about what we should do. I also told it to sort of use more modern practices, so it uses this uses UV for the packaging instead of whatever I was using before, and it uses some other things. So instead of like built-in Python libraries for the command line interface, it chose some other ones, and then it gave me a selection of graphical libraries to use, and I basically just told it not to bother with the web part of it. So it's given itself like a plan. Basically, this is going to be the core library. There's going to be a command line interface. There's going to be a GUI, and then I basically just told it, go ahead and do this. And within about 10 minutes, it had come back with a prototype and an application and that kind of thing. So to begin with, I tried to run this GUI application it created, which didn't work, unfortunately. It had this error here. And then I tried to generate a GIF where the effect animates over time, and that didn't work either. So I was not so impressed off the bat. I did have better luck with just running it on an image. So it told me to run a command like this and on an image. So I gave it this image what I'd taken in Victoria. There's like a miniature museum in Victoria in Canada. So I gave it that, and it outputted this. So that was already quite interesting. What was nice here is that it gave me these options of presets. Before, I said that in my old version I had to like construct all of these effects with this complicated JSON input, and it was a bit unwieldy. So what is nice here is that it's already like this. It's already sort of picked up on that complexity and given me a way just to apply, to find these presets, which are like a definition of different effects and like already like that. So you don't have to like mess around too much with the input, basically. So that worked, and a bit of iteration, like one or two more prompts, and Claude found the problems in the code and fixed them, and then both the GUI and the GIF generator worked. So if I just go here now and I run this command, you get this program it's made for me, and it used the name of the graphical library it used is DearPy GUI, which I'd never used before, and I didn't want to get bogged down in learning graphical stuff, so that's really handy that it's done that. So you've got this quite nice and clean interface where on the left you load in your image. So if I just load it in, and by default it's like searching for a specific type of file. There's no all, which is a bit annoying. And I just pick an image. Yeah, so this is another one from the miniature museum. And what we get then is the original here and the rendered image on the right, and the settings to apply in the middle. So if I just add something like echoes, you see instantly it does, it applies an effect. And if I change this, it immediately gets applied on the right hand side, and I can like add more and more effects to it if I want to. So if I add the phaser to it, it's it's affecting it there, and while it's rendering the image, the UI remains completely responsive, because the image rendering is done on a separate background thread, so it doesn't block the UI in any way, which keeps it very responsive, and is a big improvement over what I did before, where everything was done in place. So if you were introducing a UI, it would get locked up as it was trying to render the image. And if I clear that, and then I also have access to these presets that it made, so I can add that here. See, it just applied that preset. And you can see the preset in this case is just a phaser. What is kind of interesting is that it added this question mark button, which I assume would give you more context about the effect, but when I click on it, it actually deletes the the effect. So yeah, that's something I'll be having a word with Claude about. Add that warp one. So some of the effects, I mean, they're not like they don't always do that much really. But an interesting thing it told me about, which I hadn't looked at before, is how the image is, or the audio is being encoded, and we're using an audio encoding for an image, which is already quite strange. And Claude actually told me somewhere that one of the original problems was the mu-law encoding at one sample rate. And it's a different encodings produce wildly different aesthetics. This was unexplored, and to be honest, like I didn't have a clue about that. I saw this encoding and I just assumed, well, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in applying the effects. So I'll just have it hard coded to this mu-law encoding. But it actually identified that this is one of the areas where you can get the biggest change in the biggest distortion to the image. Maybe so if I change it, you start to see that even these things have effects on the image, and it affects things in it's like another dimension basically to apply the effects on. So again, if I just change it here, it's having an effect. Look at that. That's like almost unrecognizable compared to what we had before. So the way these effects are applied is also modified by that. And what I've started trying to do now, so I should say actually that the first time I ran it, it gave me that application, and it also gave me the ability to run it on GIFs. You can probably see that somewhere in here. Yeah, so you can run it on GIFs as well, so the effects get applied over time. And what actually happened was Claude created a project with this structure. So I told it to just delete everything that was already in the repository and remake it itself. And it made a project with this structure. So it has 5 core Python files, one for the command line, one for the GUI, and then this is the actual core of it itself. And commands for how to run it, and it created its own unit tests which it ran to verify everything was working, although it didn't pick up those issues with the GUI and the UI that I found. And yeah, so within 10 minutes it generated that whole thing with 14 effects, more than I supported originally, a GUI, better animation, and all of these more creative applications as well. So I was really impressed by that. Like, so it took me like a month of pen and paper writing, because when I originally did that, I did it on something called pen and paper, which you sort of put a pen down like this, and you move the pen on here, and it creates this output here. And the magical thing about this is if you were thinking at the same time as putting your pen to the paper, the thoughts you were having get teleported onto the page. So I really spent a lot of time working out how to do this on pen and paper, and would like plan it all out and write it all down and stuff like that, and figure it out that way. But this, I just give it a prompt, and then it creates all of this for me. It's not perfect, obviously. There were some issues, and some weird things like that question mark icon, right? But it's pretty good, I would say. It's pretty. I'm pretty impressed by the fact that it did that. And I'll just show you some other things on here. So it used 38% of its context for that request, so 77,000 tokens were used to create that. So I mean, it was quite a hefty bit of work for it to do, and if I was not on a subscription, if I was paying per token, it probably would have cost quite a lot. And what it did was create 926 lines of Python code across 9 different files, and that includes the tests as well. The actual core of the program is quite small, to be honest. It's this is the core bit of the library, which imports this socks library for doing the image manipulation. But the actual code for doing these image manipulations is all basically encoded into this file, and in fact we call it data bending. The bend method, which does the bulk of the work, it takes the image, strips out the header, reads all the effects you want to apply, applies the effects, and then rebuilds the image again after. That's only it's like 40 lines of code or something like that. Obviously it's relying on libraries and it doesn't include the graphical part and stuff like that, but that's pretty good, and honestly better written than when I did it before. So and here's an example of it running, making a GIF as well. So I had a bit of iteration back and forth. I even got Claude to run the code manually itself. So I told it like, go away and find some images you like on the internet, and apply your own effects to them and show me what you get out of it. So it tried doing that, and it got these 10 images, and it gave me them back. So here was an example of an abstract phaser pitch manipulation. Here's one where it applied these echoes again, and you can kind of see that structure. It calls it a city deep echo, but I mean it's a very weird looking city here, and then it creates these more abstract images as well. So that was just it, finding images on the internet and then basically deciding a bunch of different effects to apply to each of them. And then I iterated a bit more. It didn't used to have this real-time rendering, so where I move these, when I modify these things, it updates in real time. It didn't used to have that. It used to have to be like I click this render thing. And I am starting to experiment with it, restricting to bands. So I'm going to do that, and now I apply an effect. I didn't actually take that into account here. Oh, it's because it's not on. What should happen now, see, it just applies it to these specific bands here. So when I do this, only these bits of it are being affected. And at the moment, it's as a first pass, it's defining it so that it affects a whole row. And actually what I'd like it to do is just affect like a rectangular section. And what would be really nice is if I could draw over the image like a shape I want it to manipulate, like an area I want it to manipulate. So what I'm going to do is actually ask Claude to do that now. It was here, right? Okay. Just am I in the conversation? The conversation closed, it seemed. Okay, resume. If I just say resume, and yeah. So this is the vibe coding chat that I had before. Okay, so I've told. So the last thing I spoke to it about was that band there. It was generating that band, and it gave me an option to do it. Extracting, so it gave me it did option 1, the full width over these contiguous areas, and now I'm going to ask it to do option 2, pull the column range from each row, stitch them into one buffer, apply the effect. So what it's going to do is it's going to extract an area and apply the effect just to that area, and then put it back into the image. So I'm going to ask it to do that now. Okay, so now I'd like you to do the second option we've discussed, which is to apply the effect to just a rectangular region of the image, one which doesn't necessarily span the whole width. I'd also like you to add a feature which allows me to draw over the original image the area I'd like to affect, so that we don't have to rely on sliders. Okay, so let's see how long it takes to do this. The original prompt it took to create the whole thing took about 10 minutes. So this should be a bit less, and I'm going to let it just modify the code as it sees fit. I'm not going to read any of it. I'm just going to let it go away with it. So it's just going to think for a while and hopefully get on with it quite quickly. And hopefully this won't take too long. If I was a sophisticated YouTuber, I would fast forward, would put in some sort of time lapse of me sitting here where you can see these different things happening. But we're not that sophisticated here, so we just have to wait in real time. And isn't this just about the most exciting content you've ever seen? Okay. But you know, I think I would like you to experience this process in real time with me. So just experience it as it's happening. 1 minute. I do think this is a slightly more complicated thing for Claude to do, because I think I understand why it made the simplification to do it across the whole band before, just because it's like you can then take these contiguous blocks of the image and apply it like that, whereas this time you have to sort of do something a bit more advanced, and in that you have to take the audio, the region out of the image, put it back in at the same place. And it also has questions for things like the echo, because when you do the echo, for example, some effects are confined to just a specific region, right? Like none of the pixels move around, they just get modified. Whereas things like the echo, it affects things outside, like things move around and shift, because it's like originally based on time, movements in time, and now we're translating that into movements in position. And in fact, I really wanted to do this the first time I made the project, just to affect certain regions of the image, but because of this spatial shifting that would happen, I had no idea how to do it, and it really seemed like something quite complicated to me. So it's still thinking, still tinkering away. It's taking a bit longer than I thought, actually. Maybe I shouldn't have asked it for two features in one request, but I wanted to come through and just do it all at once, basically, and dazzle us with its magic. Okay, so this is really getting tedious now for people watching, I imagine. Yeah, I mean, I can show some other things in the meantime, maybe. How it's written, the code. Now, I think the code is quite clean, to be honest. Like, it's I first tried like this manual approach years ago of having ChatGPT try to write me a reverb audio plugin, and you know, back then it was when hallucinations were everywhere, and like the first thing it told me to do was pull a library that with a URL that didn't exist, and it the code wouldn't compile. I was copying and pasting it from the ChatGPT chat window into the code editor. It was really really a laborious process, and didn't really save any time or inspire me to want to do it more. Whereas this is on a whole other level. I think this is like having it work on your machine, and the quality of the output is something quite interesting. This is obviously just done on a fresh project. I don't know how well it would work in something. Just trying to understand a much bigger code base and just building a feature into that. But this has impressed me, and I am wondering if I'm going to be on the street soon, begging without a job and begging for Claude tokens. Okay, well, something happened there, and okay, so it's coming back with a plan this time. So you're exactly right. A rectangle is many small horizontal strips and contiguous bytes interleaved with pixels you don't want to touch. The approach option 2 is to extract those column range chunks from each row, process them, write the process chunks back. For the drawing tool, I'll use a DPG draw list. DPG is the DearPython GUI library to drag to define a rectangle. Let me plan the full scope. Okay, so it's just telling us what it's going to do basically in these files. And it's proposing the changes. So what I'm going to say now is yes, allow all edits during this session. There we go. And hopefully now it'll just go away and make all those changes without even asking me about it. So this is the overview of what it's going to do. It's going to create two new data classes, band region and rect region, which I think is just, so it keeps jumping around in the terminal here. Yeah, so it's still doing it. Okay, so it's a bit unstable trying to scroll up when things on the terminal change. So it's just describing what it's going to do and how it's going to do it, basically, with in a broad kind of sense. And it's even given me the option on the command line to tell it a region to draw as well. So yeah, there we go. It's still ongoing, and this is where it's kind of interesting when you get to this iterative approach. You try something out and then you quickly realize, oh, maybe it could do that, or maybe it could do this. So I'm building up a list of things that I'm going to tell it to add. For example, at the moment, there's no way to sort of, what would be nice, I think, is to say, after it's applied a few effects, right, this is the new image, now all the other transformations are based on top of this. At the moment, it's all just doing it on that one original image. And if you want to kind of save it as you go along, or create a new starting point as you go along, you have to save the image, reload it on the left, apply the effects and stuff like that. So, you know, that gets a bit tedious. And we're still waiting here. It's been going for 6 minutes and 47 seconds. So it's not the quickest task ever. If I close this and I just look at what's changed in Git, so we can see that it's changed one file so far. It's changed this core class, and what it's done is added these things it mentioned in the other place. So it's created this band region and a rect region for using, you know, when you've drawn the shape, and how that translates to and from the region in the image, basically. So it's going through and modifying the code and adding this stuff to define the regions and extract chunks of audio, because I think it's still going to do it. It's going to do it basically chunk by chunk. So it's going to take this horizontal rectangle, and then another one, and then another one, and basically stitch them together into a sub-image, which it will apply the effect to, and then put it back into the image itself. And to be honest, that is quite a complicated bit of code to figure out and do, I think. If I look in my book, I had a bit of code somewhere where I was like starting to think about it and draw it, what would need to be done, and I was thinking, yeah, this is quite a complicated bit of code. I think it was, hopefully you can see this. I was drawing this kind of thing to figure out how to do it. Yeah, but I never got around to implementing it, so it's cool that it can just be done easily like this. So if we just look back to what it's been doing, it's telling us the changes it's been making, and updated tests for the region. So, you know, it's written its own tests that it can validate what it's done, and it's rewriting the GUI now, which it says is the big one. So it's onto the main meat of the task, and we're up to about 9 minutes. So actually, this task is taking, depending, it could take even longer, but so far it's taken about as long as the initial prompt where it created the whole program. So yeah, so let's run the test and make sure everything is good. Give it permission to run the tests. It's running all of them. all 59 tests worked, and it has given me, okay, so in 9 minutes 33 it's done it, and it's given me some information about what to do. Before we look at that, I'll just go straight to running it and see what we have now. We still have this band thing here. And load the image. Just go back into here and load a similar image to what I used before. So what is this? Let's load that. Okay, this is another thing from that miniature museum. And okay, it's given me this option, right? So can I draw, how do I draw the selection? Or is it on here where I draw the selection? Okay, so that I don't know how to do, basically. I don't know why the drawing isn't working. If I use this, I just select that as well. Okay, so, you know, went away and did something for a while. It's not entirely clear how it works. Let me just see. Sometimes, yeah, in this case, things still are getting affected. I can choose this again, but that's the whole band. Turn that off. Yeah, so I don't know how. Maybe I need to actually see what it said or ask it. Full rewrite. So I can do it with the region. I can specify it in a region. GUI. Input image is now rendered via global. Region UI now has a draw selection checkbox. Okay, so I'll just say to it, that sounds great, you know, just being polite to it, thanks. I just run the application and can't figure out how to draw the region of interest. Does this work properly? Or have I missed something? Okay, I don't know if it'll be able to run it and test it itself. Like when it comes to like command line problems, obviously it can just run the program, and it does have the ability to validate basic things like the GUI application runs just by doing these bash commands in the terminal. But I don't think it can actually manipulate the UI in any way, although that would be interesting. So let's see how that goes then. So to draw an image requires a specific workflow that isn't immediately obvious from the UI. Here's how it goes. Load an image first. Okay, let's just run it again. Let's do it. Load an image first. In the region section of the middle column, select draw selection. Okay, so just go through the process. Images, JPEG. Let's just try an image again. In the region section of the middle column, check draw selection. Okay. Click and drag directly on the input image in the left panel to draw a rectangle. Okay. Pressing the trackpad and nothing happens. Click and drag directly in the live input image in the left panel to draw a rectangle. Release it. If it auto renders if live mode is on. Okay. Do I need to, it doesn't say anything about having an effect applied either. The code looks correct. One thing worth verifying. Get item rec min relies on the item having been rendered at least once to have a valid screen position. This should be fine. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's working here. This is the excitement of doing live vibe coding, I guess. So I'll just tell it, I've tried following the exact steps, and it doesn't work. Unfortunately. Just out of interest, let's see how much code it changed. So this is the changes that it made to the quite a lot. Yeah, quite a few changes. Anyway, back to Claude. So I'll try this one more time. If it If it doesn't work, I'll leave it here. And this last part of the video will have unfortunately all been for nothing, because we've got nothing to show for it except just watching Claude at work, basically. So it says the likely culprit would be a mismatch between Dear Python GUI's getItemRectMin and the getMouse position. What happens when you try to draw? Does the rectangle appear at all, or does nothing happen? I should have maybe given it a bit more information. The problem is the hit testing. The manual coordinate comparison using getItemRectMin is unreliable. DPG has a built-in is item hovered. That's the correct way to check if the mouse is over a specific time. Let me fix the mouse handlers. Okay, so it's just gone away and done that automatically. The original code manually computed whether the mouse was inside the canvas by doing this, and it's done it with a different way, a more native way that is reliable, it says. So let's see, it's made the change, told me what to do. Let's have a look if it works now. The moment of truth. Input images. JPEG. Go back, use the same image again. Live mode's not on, let's turn it on. Oh, and it's still don't see it. Still, unfortunately, don't see it. So, all in all, it's been a very good experience doing this with Claude. Like I say, it is, despite what has happened here, it is a very impressive bit of technology, to be honest. I'll go away and try to make it work with this mouse rectangle area. I think that was probably a bit too ambitious, asking it to do those two things in one. What I should have done is just said, add 2 more sliders here, so that I can just define a region without drawing. What if I just tell it to do that now quickly? As a final thing, I'll say it's still not working with the mouse defined rectangle. For now, could you quickly make the rectangle fully definable with sliders? So at the moment we have the top and the bottom. I guess we need the left and the right. Just 2 left and right sliders would suffice. So let's just get that working at least, and then we can forgive it for the for the manual drawn one being done. Of course, once you've done the rectangle, what is nice to try to do is arbitrary shapes and see how that could work. Okay, so it's gonna. I didn't ask it to strip out the draw to select code, but it is going to do that. So this might actually take slightly longer than I thought it would. I just wanted it to add this slider in without affecting the other code, but let's just let it do it. Because it is quite nice just having a certain region of the image affected. Like, what am I applying here? You have this sort of man walking here. What is that? Because if I get rid of that bit, you have this guy here, but you're getting this. What effect? I'm applying the echo, so something is echoed into this position, and I don't even know where that. It's that woman, I think, isn't it? It's that woman is suddenly appearing there. Yeah, it's kind of intriguing. What if I change this to 2? Yeah, so it changes it quite a lot. I don't know why I didn't make this the laser slider, by the way. It made it just numeric input. Okay, so it's done. It has the 4 sliders now, so let's see that. I'm going to use the exact same image just for consistency. Yep, so we've got the sliders. Let's say we want to restrict it to the region. That other option is gone. Put this down like that, just arbitrarily define it first, and then let's add that. Okay, so it's just affected that bit. as we can see. It's just affecting that bit of the image. If I make it, yeah, there we go. Yeah, see, there we go. Now we can just glitch these specific parts of the image while leaving everything else intact, and it puts it into quite unknown territory for me, like how this will start to work. And if I apply, so if I apply something like this, it's still just doing it to that region as well. Look at that. That's very cool, isn't it? Well, in the end, we got something out of it, at least. It wasn't all for nothing. And to be honest, maybe using just the sliders is fine. Like, I should have just asked it to do that in the first place. Alright, there we go. Well, we've got Claude to... we've used Claude now to build upon what I was already doing. So, yeah, there we go. The video has gone on long enough now, so I think I'll stop it.